And we are live. Welcome everyone to the Connected for Real podcast. This one is a mini-sode because we don't have that much time, but I had to have Lily on because she's so awesome. I'm going to introduce myself and then Lily's going to tell you what she does. I am a God-centered marriage coach for women in business, and my whole specialty is marriage, and that's what I'm here to do. Make sure that your marriage is on the right track. So Lily, introduce yourself and then we're going to talk about it.
So I'm Aronin, and I'm a holistic nutritionist, and I help women have an amazing relationship to food and their body using Jewish spiritual practices. And my program is called the Ideal Weight Shabbat Blueprint, because instead of Shabbat being the reason that we aren't meeting our health goals and being out of routine, it's actually where all the abundance and great life lessons start that we can apply to our relationship to food on Shabbos and all week long, to have our Jewish obsession with food and still love our body and be at a healthy weight and health, optimal health.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love how we align in the things that we speak about. We bring, the goodness of God and why we're here to enjoy, and all of the great delights in this world, and use it in a positive way and not in a way that feels icky. So I love that. How do you go?
No, so one of the things that I'm so excited about being here is that when I coach people all the time, marriage comes up as this huge emotional weight that really makes it difficult for them on Shabbos and during the week, of course, to then take really good actions for themselves, because it so affects our self-esteem as Jewish women when our marriage isn't in a good place. It makes it so hard to take care of ourselves in that respectful way that we really deserve.
Yes, marriage is one of those things that affects every part of your life, every single part of your life. And we often run to things to distract ourselves from this thing in our life that isn't working. And, it's frustrating because you think it should work, you want it to work, you went into it hoping it would work, and it's not, something isn't up, right? It's like frustrating. So instead of having to deal with that frustration, you turn to food or work. Workaholic is like a big thing. And other such very nice ways of running away from it and numbing it.
100%. In fact, I definitely see a lot with people that I'm helping with their relationship to food that they do run away to work. So their home isn't a happy place, or their kitchen feels like it's this center of stress because of their husband and because of their husband's talking to the kids this way. And so they don't want to be in the kitchen doing a little bit of meal prep. Everything feels like you're going through like mud to just do the very simple things that they could be doing to make their health better, to make their family's health better. And when you feel better about yourself and in your body, then all of a sudden you're showing up with more self-respect. But when you then turn around and you're looking at your spouse and you're speaking in a way that doesn't feel right to you, and then your spouse is speaking to you in a way that doesn't show that he thinks you're worthy and that he thinks you're worthy of love, you turn around and that plate of yummy, healthy food doesn't feel in alignment with who you really are. That plate of food that is processed and just came out of the freezer and you didn't really have time to put it together, or eating your kids' leftover food off their plate, or just grabbing a bowl of cereal, or just eating their crust of their pizza. Like, these behaviors, a lot come from that lack of self-esteem and self-respect. And no matter how much good you're putting in there, when you turn around and you hear how you're speaking to your spouse and you feel how they're speaking to you, it just crushes it from the inside.
Yes. And you know what I love? You said the mud, because I talk a lot about the mud. We're swimming in mud. We're constantly just telling over and over again the reasons and the stories of why our marriage is broken and why it's his fault or why this is happening, because we're trying to protect ourselves, because just a natural way of dealing with the world. And one of the things I love to do is just like, let's get out of the mud and let's choose a different path. Like, nobody is forcing you to stay there. Nobody is telling you you have to stay in the mud and swim in it for the rest of your life. And once you realize it's a choice and you actually get to choose, why would you stay there? You don't want to. Now, at this point, when you realize the awareness that it's not where you want to be, the next step is, now how do I get out of here? Like, how?
I know that you have kids in Bidud right now. We can hear them. I literally just came out of 6 kids, 6 weeks of somebody sick with corona, including myself, or in quarantine. And I just spent a whole month trying to equip people with tools against emotional binging and food amnesia and all of these things. And what is crazy is that when you feel like your marriage is in a good place, it can be really hard. You can be in pain, but you're still then able to say, hey, I'm in pain. Can you make sure like I at least have healthy food? We're all locked in the house. I'm locked with the kids. If I come out of this and I feel bloated and swollen and not good on my body, then it's just going to make this whole situation worse. But if you don't have that communication and you don't have that good relationship, then you feel like you're locked in quarantine with your kids and your only outlet is food that's going to make you feel bad. And it may make you feel good in that second, but it really is making you feel bad. And you're going to exit that 6-week, 4-week, whatever cycle it is that you're in the world in that moment. And instead of feeling like empowered and free, oh my gosh, thank God we made it through this hard thing, you feel like, oh my God, I really have to pull it together. I really let myself go.
And that's where all the judgment comes in and all of the guilt and the shame and the icky stuff. And then you start having the meta emotions, which is like, I'm guilty for feeling guilty and I feel shamed for even being ashamed. And, you go in circles. I totally agree with you. We just finished 2 weeks of quarantine just to go back to school for half a day to be told that the teacher has corona and we're back into so thank you for your understanding with my background noise. Oh my goodness. What are the questions that came up from your community? Because I saw that you posted, send me your questions because we want to deal with them. I want to really be here for your people. So let's hear what are things that are coming up for them.
So, for the people in my community, they're working on their health and their relationship to food during the week and on Shabbat. And looking at Shabbat as kind of like a battery pack for their whole week. So they have a healthy mindset and relationship to food. They know what to put on their plate. And, it's very, very clear. What's crazy for them is that when they get home from work, right? And let's say their husband's been in charge of the kids for an hour or two. It's like they walk in and all of that negative energy hits them. Everybody wants their attention. And all of a sudden, all the judgments about their husband overwhelm them. And what they thought they were supposed to eat, they cannot physically remember. Like they're saying, like they know, like it should be easy. I know what to put on my plate. I literally can't think of a single healthy thing to eat because I'm consumed with so much resentment and anger to everybody else around me. And I just want to do good for my family.
This reminds me when I had, my oldest is now 15, but when she was young, she used to be afraid she would wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares. And whatever it was that I was trying to figure out how to help her. And I read all these things and whatever. And the main thing was deal with it when it's not night, right? Like prepare during the day when it's safe, when she knows that everything's okay. Talk about what's going on, how can we prepare, create something, like there's all those art projects that are like little things that are hanging that can really ground them. Or, we gave her a prayer book to put under her pillow, whatever it was that would calm her down. The preparation was such a huge step for and dealing with the actual night. And when you know that this is a pattern for you, that you come home and every time you come home, you feel like there's a drop, then you know exactly what you need to prepare. But that's not the time to do it. That's not when you're going to be like, okay, let me sit down and do the work now on my husband so that I can get, in a better mindset. Like, no, everything is being thrown at you. You have to really think ahead. So that's really important to know, because then you can know what you need to do, which is put yourself in a situation where you're guided, you're given the tools, you have the skills that you need in order to be able to handle that. And we just finished my retreat, by the way, and day 6 was all about designing the atmosphere in your home. And it really comes back to you. It comes back to how you're feeling about all the parts of your life and how you're dealing with all the things that are coming up. Because if you feel good about yourself, then whatever anybody else says from outside is not going to trigger you anymore.
Mm-hmm. And I know I actually have been through your retreat because I'm always working on myself. I'm not just about, telling the people in my community, okay, well, you should work on your marriage. It really affects your health. I'm like, well, my marriage affects my health too. So I got to embody that and show up and be an example. So in your program, you have like a very clear system that you're not just like, okay, well, you should think in advance. You like really lay out for people, how do I deal with those feelings of resentment beforehand clearly so that I can show up, and then at night I can just seamlessly make because the food plan that we give, it's so easy to follow. There's no measuring, there's no any of that stuff. But when you're so consumed with rage and frustration because of your home life, it doesn't matter how easy it is, you can't take action. The second story that people brought up that was very similar was morning routine, that getting the kids out to school in the morning. And especially, all of my clients work, whether they work from home or they work in an office, but they all have a job. And getting the kids out and making time to prep any food for themselves for their day, no matter how simple it is. I can give them like literally a 5-minute meal plan. But when their marriage and their home life feels like this huge mud, taking the simple actions that show them the respect and the care, which will only energize them and make them happier, just feels like it's like I'm speaking another language. How could
I love this question. It reminds me, you just brought me back in time to the time when I was working from home and my husband had just lost his job and he was all depressed and he used to sit on the couch and be like, all like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like really a bad place. Okay. Like it feels so vivid right now because you just brought me back there. And I remember not being able to go into the kitchen because anytime I would go from the office to the kitchen, I would have to see him and it would trigger all the stuff again. And I felt so lost, so like, I don't know what to do anymore. And I went to ask my mentor for help. This was many years ago. And she she was able to switch the mindset and switch what I was thinking so much that I started, her thing was gratitude. So I started being grateful for my husband just being there. And it changed everything. It changed everything because I finally didn't make it about me. It was, he was going through whatever he was going through and it had nothing to do with me. And slowly I was able to move myself away from that and really separate myself from it. But you were saying about the morning routine and sometimes how things, a couple of years ago, I realized that I don't take care of myself in breakfast time because of all the things going on. I'm just not a morning person. And so I asked my husband to make me breakfast. And, because I've been working on my marriage all these years and I am, this is what I do. So I have to constantly be on top of it. I think is a gift, by the way, that I have to be. I'm accountable to all of you. I just said, like, this is really hard for me. Do you think that you can make me breakfast? And he's really good at being consistent and being organized and having things done. So every single morning after I pray, I know that there's something on the stove for me. And I actually sit down and eat a hot meal, which is way more than I could have imagined if I would have done it for myself. Right. So sometimes being, the work isn't figuring out the technical stuff. The work is the worthiness. Am I actually worthy of sitting down, like you were saying, about eating the leftovers and just, shoving whatever is there? Am I worthy of having a hot meal in the morning? Like, is it okay that my husband is, spoiling me and making me food? And what are people going to say about that? And, oh, your husband helps so much, it's not fair. Like, all those things were coming up for me and I had to deal with them. So, you were saying about my program, it's so systemized to make sure that you have a holistic view and that you're not just dealing with marriage in a vacuum.
One of the things that I love about your retreat, and one of the amazing meditations, like you take it very practical, but also visualizing a better future. And I think that, when I came out of quarantine, my husband arranged for us to go away overnight together. We'd been, quarantined separately. I was quarantined with my daughter. We hadn't seen each other in a week. And previously to how much work I'd been putting in my marriage, that would have been, okay, well, let's go to these really indulgent restaurants and let's do all these things that I really like and whatever. And he really said to me, okay, I know that, you want to eat healthy. Tell me, what restaurants are going to like work best for you. And tell me like what you need to have on a menu. If I'm also want to get a burger, like what kind of burger place is also going to have things that are really going to make it fun for you. And because I've been so consistent in working on my health without making him change, just asking him to help me do it for me. So then when he's planning things, also he's taking that into consideration. But that wasn't how it started at the beginning. At the beginning, it was me resenting him for having ice cream in the fridge and telling him he can't have his ice cream in the freezer because I'm going to eat all his ice cream. I had to really work on myself to be like, if I want ice cream, that's on me. Somebody else can have things at the house. If I want to ask him to keep his ice cream in the bottom shelf of the freezer under the frozen vegetables, that is totally okay because that's about me and not about him not having things that are good for him. And this is overlap between needing to work on your marriage and then how it really helps when you're on a health journey with your food. You need to have both because you don't live in a vacuum.
Exactly. And in my program, it's a 6 months. I have a 6 month and then 1 year. The 1 year is for women in business, but the 6 month program for women who just really want to take their marriage, pick it up, put it on the right track, and push it to where it's actually amazing. It's a 6 month program because the first 3 months, you're focused so much on yourself. You're going to get, all of that weird looks and the what are you doing? And, I don't know why you're talking differently suddenly. And why do you think that you're doing this or that? And that's okay. Because then the second phase is when your husband comes and joins you and he realizes, I actually like the new you. I actually like that you're, looking at everything from all the different angles and that you're working in a way that's making you well-rounded, that it's not just like focusing on one thing. I'm getting really good here, but I'm leaving everything else behind. Like, wow, I like this. I'm into it. And then you end up having that merge, but that merge can only happen in the second phase because the first phase is so important. It's creating your own wants. And one of the things that I had to work on, and, obviously if I had to work on it, a lot of my clients have to, go through it too. It's creating my want versus our want, right? Like we want blah, blah, blah. No, like I don't care about what we want. What do you want? So, then the next thing is, well, I just don't want it to be this way. I don't want him to talk to me that way. I don't want blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, I get what you don't want. You've been focusing on that your whole life. Let's find out what you do want. And that's really hard to answer. And that's where I want to really hone in is like the first 3 months of the program are so much clarity, so much letting go of all of the baggage and all of that stuff that's holding you back and the stories and the mud and the swimming and all of that, that can stay. That's fine. And it doesn't make it, okay. It just means you don't have to carry it anymore. And then you can just go and fly and, be free and light and happy. And that's where it's, that's where it starts getting really good, because now you can actually be your full self.
Yeah. One of the other scenarios that I've seen come up a lot and that people were asking about in their marriage is, I have kids and spouses and things like that with ADD. And it's like pretty common nowadays that somebody has this in their family. And I know for a lot of us, there's so much like self-judgment and judgment in the marriage, depending on who's the spouse that has it, that where did it come from genetically. And like, now I have to deal not just with the kids, but I'm dealing with the spouse, or I'm feeling negative about myself and dealing with this in the family. And that always affects our food, because it affects our mealtime, it affects the organization, it affects the cleanliness, it affects, all these things that you're like, I can't go in the kitchen if it's covered in dishes and wrappers and mess. I can't go make myself a healthy meal. I can't even think about grabbing a cucumber out of the fridge. I'm just going to go to the pantry and grab a bag of chips, right? Because like the kitchen is like, eh. And it doesn't matter if you're the one with ADD or if it's the other people with ADD in your house, like left their clutter everywhere. It's like crazy. And I know that when my clients are working on their marriage and working on their mindset, in such a concrete program where they're working on their thoughts and then they're working on how they're interacting in communication, like you teach, that then they look at that kitchen and instead of seeing like a big red stop sign, you can't go in there, they can start to see like, okay, I know I can focus on, like you said, what I want to happen next, so that I can get to my cucumbers, not so that I just turn around, grab the potato chips and run the other way. And how does like your FLY program, that 6-month program, equip women when they are overwhelmed by the clutter and the mess and the housework to figure out what they really want and to better their life?
I love it. Okay, so first thing is FLY stands for find God in everything, love your marriage, and you as a whole person, in your best self. And I feel like these are the main pillars that create that fulfilling life. When you bring God into everything, when you actually connect for real, right? That's my business, Connected for Real. You are so connected on such a real level. And it's not like, oh, my God stuff is here and my life is here and they don't have anything to do with each other. It's like, no, they are one and the same. And God is here to, make sure that you have an amazing life. That's why he gave you life. He wants to help you. He wants to guide you. So first pillar is bring God into it. The thing is that we have a lot of beliefs about God that are really detrimental to our relationship with God. So
I love this part of your retreat, guys. This is so true. If you grew up like I did in like Jewish school system, listen right now.
not only that, but the Christians who come are saying the same thing about the Christian school system, because every school system has its thing. They want to make sure to protect you and they want you to follow the line. And so there's a lot of things. Maybe they come out of fear. Maybe they come out of trying to control. Maybe it comes out of whatever they learned and they're just passing on. And we have a lot of things that we believe that are not actually working. They're not actually true. They're not what God really is. And so when we can let go of all that and we get really, really clear, what does my soul want? What is my purpose? What does God want for me? What am I worthy of? Right? A lot of worthiness work. That's one really big part. And, that's the core of the program. Above that, we have marriage. And marriage is really, that thing that overflows into every part of your life. Yeah. So when your marriage is strong and good and aligned and whatever, it's great. You can handle anything, right? You feel like, woohoo. And when there's one little area, like one little kink, everything else feels stuck, like the money and the career and something with the kids and the in-laws and the whatever, like everything comes up. And it's always from that core. So I went into marriage because I knew that I was able to help you in every aspect of your life, because your marriage is that source of overflow. And then the last part is you. They moved the chair. The last part is you. When you can hold all of that, when you can hold your life that revolves around God, and you are that, that container, that vessel, you can then do amazing things. Now, here's the thing. People say, my plate is too full. I can't take on any more things. Well, here's like my answer to that. You can have two options. Either you take things off your plate so that you have more room for yourself, which is what most people are telling you to do, like do less and, delegate, whatever. But my approach is instead leave all the stuff on your plate and just grow your plate. Learn to receive more, learn to contain more, learn to become more, because you are meant for more. And you as a container will become so capable of handling all of these things, and you're going to have air and you're going to have space, and things are going to flow in a different way when you're able to contain your life in that way. So we work a lot on creating space and, really getting grounded and finding what works for us and creating systems. And everything, by the way, is unique to you. Every woman that comes through the program is going to have something different that works for her. And that's one thing that I really believe in, is that you can't have this one size fits all. Just do this and it's going to work for you. It's not, because a lot of people have different styles of doing things. So most of the program is built on what is the answer that came up for you. You get really, really good at being in intuition, being in that space of receiving and having the clarity. And then you're going to see how that affects everything else in your life.
Yeah. And, in the scenario that I gave about the breakfast, I remember in your retreat, one of the things that you talked about was, I need to have all these things before I'm allowed to be happy. I need for the kitchen to be perfectly clean before I'm allowed to cook a meal in it.
Right.
Like, I can learn how to communicate, and I can get the tools, and I can, have less to do in the house and get everybody else to do more. But also, like you said, I could grow my plate, and I can my ability to tolerate the mess while getting my needs met. Well, I learned the communication skills to handle the house better. But all these limiting stories that we have, I can't be happy. I can't work out if the kids are also around. I can't run my business if my kids are in Bidud. I can't be on a call. I can't do any of that stuff, versus no, I can do so many more things that I let myself do. And I got that out of your retreat, and you're from 100%.
Yeah, I call that an integrated life, where you can integrate every part of your life in a way that feels in flow. That's, by the way, the flow mastermind for women in business. That's what we focus on the most, is, creating that integration, creating that wholeness, because holistically you are one, and there's a bunch of parts of you, and they all have to work together for you to feel like everything is in alignment. You can't lie to yourself, and that's one of the aspects that we really work on, is the intimacy, physical and emotional intimacy, because a lot of times on the outside, the facade looks, everything's okay, everything's great. And if that's not okay, then your shame about it is so big that you're not able to have that integrated life, because you have a part of you that's missing, that's, lacking, that's lagging.
That's the last thing that people really brought up, was struggling with nighttime eating and snacking. And I think the lack of intimacy in the marriage is a huge part of why that is such a tremendous trigger for so many women. I'm not going to that amazing time with my husband where we're really connected at night, and then, or intimate, either emotionally or physically. We're sitting side by side watching TV and snacking. Or, well, whenever we have that time, it has to be with cookies and tea. Well, if it was a single cookie and tea, it probably wouldn't be a problem. But the problem is the intimacy is actually lacking there. And the cookies are the point to get you to sit down for 5 seconds together, or the mindless eating at night, and going back to the fridge, because you just feel unsupported and disconnected.
I love it. One time my mother put a chair in front of the fridge door and just stared at it. She's like, there's no point. I keep coming back and forth. I'll just sit right here. And it's, you're reminding me, this is exactly what it is. It's like we're constantly looking for the answer. We're looking for something external that's going to fill the need, something external that's going to plug this hole right now, because I feel empty. And I don't want that anymore. I'm sick of the things that are just going to give the superficial answer. I created a system that really, really goes deep and goes to the core and starts from there. So everything that was built on all that, non-truths just comes crashing down. I don't have to work hard to take it one floor at a time. It just goes. And then you have this amazing ground to start working on because you're creating actual systems that work for you in your life. That's really what it's all about. And I love that you brought that up.
It's so true. And I think that, one of the programs that I've worked with my clients is the 2B mindset. And, what I love about teaching and working with that model is that we don't say, okay, well, like in Weight Watchers, just go for a walk, honey, or put your Y on the fridge. No, none of that is going to help when there's like that big empty gaping hole that's really your marriage or really your relationship with your kids or really any of those things. But like, I think that one of the things you say that is so true and also true about a relationship with food is that when we don't, it all comes down to your relationship with you first. And I love that is the first thing that you address in your program. And I would so much rather somebody in my program who's struggling with late night eating, and I can give them all the techniques, but if they can't take action on them, I want them to go and deal with the core issue. That's not what we're dealing with in our group. I want them to not just keep saying I'm a failure and feel shame because they can't implement what they need to implement. I want them to dig deep and say, hey, where's the gap? And go to join your program to meet that gap so that then they could come back and we can work on the stuff that I'm going to help them with in terms of not the relationship to food, but they need to work with you to get that relationship that makes them feel empowered to take care of themselves.
Yes, I love that you said it all comes back to you. In the retreat, we don't even talk about your husband until day 3 because he's not the problem. He's not the issue, even though we like to use him as the excuse and we feel very entitled to it because, he's the husband. So it just makes sense. I once had a friend who said, mothers are so that kids have who to blame when they grow up. This is pretty much what husbands are, right? Like, it's just the convenient way to get away with not having to take responsibility. And I actually, I really believe what you said about it doesn't matter what tools I give you. It doesn't matter what hacks. It doesn't matter what skills, because you're not going to be able to implement them. You know why? Because your brain is working on willpower. And willpower doesn't last. You can't push through over and over and over again when you're working against the current. You're working against your brain. Your brain is trying to protect you, and you're saying, no, I don't want this protection. But then your brain, okay, well, what else am I going to do? I have to protect you. So it's constantly working against you. Stop working against yourself and give up that willpower and just go straight to the core, deal with it. And then all the other stuff comes out so naturally. That's, one of the things, like you're saying, joining a program like yours and mine at the same time is actually a really good idea, because you end up getting that, balance of here's what you have to do versus here's, how to actually implement it.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful like integration. And one of the things that you did in your retreat that I absolutely loved was your mirror exercise. I love that because so many times people, at least, in my challenger, people in my community and people who I work with one-on-one, everybody across the board has the line, especially around Shabbos, but my kids have to have the cookies and my husband has to have the dessert and all of these things. Well, none of that would be a problem if you didn't also want to have them, and if you didn't have a problem with just having them and having a moderate amount of them that worked for your body and worked for your health, then like there would be no problem. But it's like, you can talk a little bit about your mirror thing about with your marriage, that like we're always looking to make everybody else and their desires the problem, why we can't be successful.
I love that you said this. I'm just going to tell you guys what the mirror thing is, so you're not like, in midair. You walk into the house and you see you see the mirror, and you see that there's a stain on your shirt. So you go and you get the rag and you start wiping the mirror and it's not working. So you get this, the scotch, and you're scratching it, you're bleaching it, you're soap and watering it, whatever. It doesn't matter what you try. It's not getting the stain off your shirt. And that's because the stain is on your shirt. And the second you can actually take responsibility and clean up your shirt, you will not see it in the mirror ever again. And it doesn't matter which mirror. You can, you won't see it in your husband, you won't see it in your kids, you won't see it in the lady that just cut you in line. You won't see anybody having that, because you will no longer have to be shown that you have that stain. And that's really, really, that's one of the things that I also love the most, because it forces you to take responsibility and actually look at, why is this happening? Why do I see this in my husband? Why do I see this in my kids?
Yeah. I just think that it's such an amazing thing. And I really hope that people who are on a health journey with me, or are interested in being on a health journey, really look at the bigger picture and that holistic element and say, wow, is my biggest problem right now the food, or is my biggest problem right now my marriage? And the food is the way that I am numbing, distracting, coping with the stress that my broken marriage is creating, ripples in my life. And as a gift to anybody who wants to work on their health with me and also wants to do your Fly program, I'm going to give 50% off my course to anybody who signs up with you for your Fly program. Send them 50% off for my course, so that while they're succeeding in the marriage, they're going to be able to really apply that to their food, because they want to be on a food journey, but they know that they're not able to apply what I'm teaching them if they aren't working with you and really get everything they need on their marriage.
Wow. You guys, first of all, I'm shocked, and I think this is amazing of Lily. I love you so much. I agree with you completely, and you're inspiring me. So I'm going to also give a 20% discount. Okay. So I think you're going to get this really nice all around package. And I was not planning on saying that, but there's something really beautiful about what you just did. So you're going to get a 20% discount from my 6-month program, Fly, and you can have 50% off of Lily's program. I think that you're so right. When you can work on your marriage, which is the real root problem, and then deal with the food, which is really the way that it's showing up in the world, you're going to fly. You're going to have such a fulfilling life. I can't imagine not succeeding that way.
Right? Because that food makes you feel so much more confident, and then you feel good in your body. And then when you go into this marriage class and you look at yourself in the mirror, you only see the stain that you need to work on. You're not distracted by, I hate the way my jaw looks, I don't like that I can't see this, I don't have anything to wear. You're just okay, all that stuff, that's in process. What's the actual thing that's really bothering me? Oh, it's that I really think that the house should be cleaner than it is. And I am making it, like you said, all my husband's fault.
Yeah. Not only that, but it should be cleaner than it is, right? All the shoulds, they're really dangerous, because really, why should they? There's a deeper reason to why you think your house should be cleaner, because someone else's house is cleaner, because you grew up in a certain way, or because you think your husband thinks that you should have the house cleaner because he grew up in a house that was cleaner. There's a lot of depth behind that, just belief that, oh, my house should be cleaner. And shoulds are really not your friend. So this is such a fun conversation. Does anybody in the comments want to ask any questions before we wrap up? Because this is just so fun. We have here Moshe, who says, well done, ladies. So thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. And we have Miriam, who says, good morning. I am so happy to see you also. This is just amazing. You know that the way that I see it, creating community that actually is on that wavelength with you is so powerful. That's why I'm making the program, because people were asking me, just, let's just do one-on-one. Let's just do one-on-one. But there's something so magical about being able to see, first of all, that other people are like you and you're not the only one, which was my biggest thing when I was doing one-on-ones, is everybody thinks they're the only one and there's something wrong with them. Nothing's wrong with you. You happen to just be human. God put you here to deal with these things, right? Nothing is actually wrong, but you need the right guidance. You need the right assistance. You need the right accountability. You need to be in the right place with the right people. And, we were just in a class before that, they were saying that peer pressure is so huge. And that's why you need to put yourself in the right place. You have to be amongst people and listening to people and hearing messages that line up with what you want to do and not with, against what you want to do.
Yes, that's 100% true.
Yeah. Whew. Okay. Tell me a little bit about the Shabbat program, because I don't even know how long it is.
So my Shabbat Ideal Weight program is 6 weeks, and it's really powerful because we have access to all of the content forever. So even though we're together coaching together for 6 weeks, you clearly see how to create a healthy lifestyle that will bring you to your ideal weight sustainably. You learn how to communicate with your family for Shalom Bayit around food and your health. You learn to entertain like a Shabbat queen and host people who look up to you, who really have an amazing experience when they come to your home and feel really connected. It gives you the tools to feel confident at events and kiddushes and weddings, and your friend who makes those amazing chocolate chip cookies and the best challah, and to still walk away from those experiences having had a good time and feeling good in your body, and just mastering those daily routines about Shabbat that actually are all week long, because people are always saying Shabbat ruins their routine. It's not true. That's like a thing we're telling ourselves. Shabbat is a routine. Your routine is you break all your routines on Shabbat, but you can have this amazing Shabbat routine that is making your week better. And then
I love that. It's like, same thing with the marriage being the core of your life. Shabbat is the core of your week. It's really what it's all about. I love that.
And then you transition with your health and weight through different seasons. That's how we end the program, is really talking about sustainability. Shabbos changes, winter, summer. Shabbos changes having young children, having older children. Shabbos changes in menopause and when you're still having babies and nursing. I go through each of the different stages on how you can take this amazing Shabbat you created and grow with it forever.
I love it. And that's the last part of my program too, is making it stick, because I don't want you being dependent on me for anything. I want you on your own 2 feet. So I love that our values match up so much. Okay, you guys, I am going to go take care of my kids because there's a lot of noise back there. And I'm so touched that you are collaborating with me in this beautiful way. Make sure that you get in touch with Lily to get your 50% off. Get in touch with me to get your 20% off. Let's do this thing. You deserve it.
Absolutely. Go work on your marriage and let your food just be that nourishment to do the hard work on your marriage.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Lily. This was a pleasure.
Thank you.